So, welcome everyone. As you know, this is going to be our Leadership in Social Organizations event for our HERizon campaign. So, this meeting will be recorded and then later posted on the website as well as She's the First's YouTube. So, you can always go back and rewatch it if you guys have any further questions. But to start off, we're going to do some quick introductions. So, I'll go ahead and just give a quick introduction of myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Mahita. I'm one of the Girls Activist Fellows for She's the First. So essentially, I was part of the cohort that helped organize this entire event. And I'll be here kind of today, just like facilitating this panel, kind of prompting the questions and managing any audience questions. So if anyone has any issues with hearings, like a certain speaker, or they want to ask a speaker a personal question, just let me know or message me directly and I can handle that. Let's see. I think Elena, one of our other She's the First members, is here, so I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, my name's Alina, and I was together with Mahi in this cohort, and I've helped organize this fest as well. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to talk to you all. Yeah, yeah, over to you, Mahi.
Perfect. Let's see. Brianna, do you want to go next?
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Brianna Marinas. I'm from the Philippines and I'm the founder of the first ever global youth-led movement on ending violence against children. I also wear other hats where I also do research and also program development. So very happy to meet all of you here.
Let's see. Asmita, do you want to take the next introduction?
Hey, hi everyone. I am Ashmita. I'm currently out of West Bengal, India. I am a co-founder, one of the co-founder of Rang Foundation, and we created the organization to kind of represent invisible queer voices. And we'll talk more about it. And it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's experiences.
Perfect. And then Shobi, do you want to go and give us your introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Mahi, and Elena, for having us. Such an honor to join this panel today. My name is SHOMY Hasan Choudhury. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm originally from Bangladesh, currently joining from London in the UK. That's where I'm based now. And I'm the co-founder of a global nonprofit called Awareness 360. I'm also a WASH activist, so anything related to clean water and sanitation is my passion area. Looking forward to learning more about my fellow panelists and talking about my work. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for those great introductions. And then you guys kind of already mentioned a lot of the work you've been doing with whatever organization that you have either co-founded or just worked with. So I guess the first question of this panel is going to be what initially inspired you to pursue a career or just a pathway in the nonprofit or social impact space? And then this can just be whoever wants to pop in, answer first, and then if anyone else has anything else to say, they can just pop in later too.
I can start. That's okay. So my journey as a WASH advocate. So WASH is an acronym that stands for Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, in case you don't know. So my journey as a WASH activist or advocate started in quite an accidental way. It wasn't a planned career choice. And allow me to be a little vulnerable here because it's a very personal story for me. So 10 years ago, actually 11 years ago now, I lost my mother to diarrhea. And she was sick for literally just one day, and to lose her to a preventable disease like diarrhea has exposed me to the whole world of clean water and sanitation. And I found out how so many people, including children, are dying or being sick from diseases like this that are closely linked to access and awareness about clean water and sanitation. So obviously that is the biggest loss in my life, and I was devastated. But at the same time, I wanted to take action and I wanted to do something about it because it was just so painful at the time and still the same. But I just didn't want to wait, and I didn't want anyone else to go through the regret and the regret of not knowing, the regret of not taking it seriously, the regret of what could I have done, right? So I wanted to take action immediately. So 4 days after my mother's passing, I did my first WASH talk at a sanitation workers community. Now, back home in Bangladesh, the sanitation workers community, unfortunately, are considered as an untouchable, unclean, like an isolated community. And I felt that it is such a disgrace because they do such an important work, and it is important that they understand these concepts of, water filtration, sanitation, hygiene, etc. More. So that's why I started with that community. And even though it was very difficult to go up on stage, hold a microphone, speak to hundreds of people, despite going through such a raw emotion and pain and grief, at the same time it was also a moment of realization about the power of storytelling and how people can connect with each other more through stories than through numbers. And that is really what motivated me to become a champion of this cause, and since then I have continued my WASH advocacy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, especially like sharing your story. Like, I know this must have been very difficult for you, but I think it's great that you managed to take an event like that and kind of use it to kind of create some change in your community, especially. And then just let me know if anyone else wants to add on to that. I'm sure everyone else has some sort of story that they can mention that inspired them as well.
I guess I can hop in next. And Shomi, I also just want to say, like, my heart also goes out to you. I think so many of us in the social impact sphere are very much inspired by our own lived experiences or by someone else who is very, very dear and very close to us. I guess for my own story, I also didn't expect to get into the social impact or nonprofit space as a career. Actually, in high school, I was a STEM student. And so perhaps like in another lifetime or another alternate reality, I would have pursued another passion, which is microbiology and biotechnology. But yeah, when I was in high school, I was also still trying to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be in the world. But what I really did was try to follow my heart and where my heart lied closest to. And so in the Philippines as well, 4 out of 5 children actually experience forms of violence. That's 4 out of 5 children. And that can include physical violence, sexual violence, emotional violence, neglect as well. And so it's just a really, really big and very personal and very strong issue here in the Philippines. And so for college, the other route I chose to go to was to study psychology, because initially I really wanted, and I still do want to become a psychotherapist for children who have been abused, to help them understand what they went through, go through their challenges, whether mentally or physically, and also help them find a place in the world that they themselves create and that wherein they can heal. And so in college, I tried on many different things. So I started with like research, psychology research and parenting, because I really wanted to practice psychology, right? And then it came, I think, about 2 years ago in my second year of college, where I was introduced to public health and global health. And because it was violence against children is not only a very personal issue in the Philippines, it's actually a personal issue in the world. And so I'm not sure if any of you know, but the statistics currently are that 1 in every 2 children around the world experience violence. That's 1 billion of our children worldwide. And so it's such a big and personal issue. And so at the same time, while I really wanted and still do want to become a psychotherapist for children, I realized that I couldn't just play an intervention or treatment role. I wanted to figure out what I can do in terms of prevention and what we can do now. And so I went into different roles, for example, like program development. So I started being involved in developing parenting programs for children here in the Philippines, like low income, low resource families here in the Philippines, to teach families, like different parenting practices, one-on-one time with their children, talking about feelings, how to make routines in order to stop violence from starting in the first place. And it was from there that I also thought, so like first intervention and treatment, and then also prevention. And it was from there that I also thought about what can I actually do now. And so I've been involved in advocacy since high school, but it was only up until about like 2023 when I started the Global Youth-led movement ending violence against children that I actually started to become, I guess, more vocal and more public about this issue. And I think it's really difficult, like what Shomi said as well, because this issue is still very taboo. A lot of people, like so many people experience it, but not a lot of people talk about it. And a lot of people who are in the sector or who tackle these issues can also be looked down upon because it isn't that spoken about. And so, yeah, there are like many different ways that I've been involved. And I think it's been a really, really like long journey. And I hope that was a little bit clear. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of people have many reasons why they get inspired, but I really love how you talked about there's plenty of ways to approach an issue, and I think it's amazing that you are kind of very multifaceted in your approach and that you do research, but you also focus on the emotional and like community side of it. So it's definitely very inspiring. And then say, Asmita, do you want to?
Yeah, because it's also like I think like and zombie, like there's no like one way to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Brianna and Shomi said, somewhere it was for me a very personal issue, but I did not know. Again, I was in my bachelor's, I was doing English honors, so I am a child of an elder daughter of a single mother, and my family is, I would say matriarchal family, because obviously feminism is not, I don't think it's an ideology that our parents' generation understand in, within the middle class, global south, third world countries, families. So, but, growing up with a mother as a head of the household, and then when I, during my undergrad went out into the world, I saw how different everything else was to what I had grown up to. And how my lenses were already like molded to a certain way, and then I did not fit, my lenses were not fitting with the rest of the world. I think, I don't know, I mean, it's been a part of discovering and self-exploration as much as, being part of the social sector. I think the biggest thing that drives me is me trying to find my space in the society, in the community, and knowing obviously how many people, I mean 14% of the community of the population is non-binary, and how invisibilized we are, and how oppressed everyone, like, and obviously we understand that everyone comes from different backgrounds and different socio-cultural practices, and there's so many other aspects to look at. But one thing is common, that someone who is non-binary, they do not have, wherever they come from, like even if they are coming from many other marginalization, or if they are in a very stable place in their lives, they are still not accepted or acknowledged or validated in their identity. And I think me also, like, going through my personal experiences and personal growth, yeah, I mean, I think it was meant to be for me, at least. I would not have been, I tell myself this, and I know this is part of a later question, that I tell myself that, if not this career, I don't think I would be happy doing anything else, because then I would just not be happy. So yeah, I think I'll just say.
Sorry, I got a little frozen at the end of there. But yes, thank you for that wonderful answer. I think it's definitely important to acknowledge that everyone does come from different and unique experiences, even within a community. And I think it's also important to highlight that, especially in one's community work. So thank you all for those amazing stories of inspiration. I think the next question, this is also another like generalized question, so whoever wants to start can just unmute. The next question is going to be kind of based on a specific moment or experience. Okay, sorry, it was like lagging a little. Can you share a moment when you saw your work directly impact an individual or community and how that moment shaped your perspective?
Can I go? Is that okay? Okay, so I have been working with adolescents and then women for the last 5 years. So I've been working as a social development practitioner for 5 years now, and one thing that I realized was and we later created rung out of this need is that just the lack of space for anyone actually to talk about their express or just reflect on their feelings. And when obviously it comes to adolescents or women about their mental health and their sexual and reproductive health, I mean, we knew when we were designing the programs or before we were going into the ground to intervene, we knew that there is a gap in this. But when we actually went and started, I was in a session in a very rural area in West Bengal, and I was doing an SRHR workshop around child marriage prevention in a co-ed government school. So there were boys and girls, almost 50 in combined, and first of all, the topic itself is a very, it's there, as I think Brianna was saying, it's everyone knows about it, but no one wants to talk about it. So for them, the first thing when they are in a space where up front this topic is being put in front of them and we are asking to we're facilitating a conversation and we are asking for their input, the first thing obviously is them not wanting, there's avoidance, there's denial, they don't want to confront with the topic. But as and when I started going into it, I saw, and obviously whenever we do a co-ed session, there becomes a very evident distinction between the male-bodied and the female-bodied participants there, not just because of their own experiences, but also about their understanding about the other gender. So in that space you get to realize that male-bodied people or boys, adolescent boys, they hold a specific set of ideas about girls, and girls in the other turn will hold specific, again this comes down to gender norms and rules and what they are learning. There's a lot of frustration I felt, that given a space they want to talk about it, and even in a space where both boys and girls are holding their space, when given enough support, the girls were able to kind of really stand for themselves. And we were talking about menstruation, right? We were talking about menstruation and early marriages, where in that area there was a very high trend of girls running away from their homes and getting married to their boyfriends because the family would not accept them dating a boy, right? So they knew that getting married is a cultural norm, so once they're married no one can stop them, so they would just run away from home and get married. And that is the point we were trying to address, to say that what have you thought of, you just run away, then how does it end, or how does it stop your career or your life from taking the vision that you want to. And at that point it was very surprising to see that when given that space again, that girls were able to really take the stand and they were actually calling out toxic behaviors or red flag behaviors that adolescent boys hold, and to which they often fall victim to, or they bear the brunt of it. So that was very interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that a lot of the times when people are given the platform, there's definitely a lot of hesitancy to even use it. But I think it's amazing that your work has kind of created that environment in which people are willing to talk about it, even if like a certain topic may be like taboo or not necessarily talked about. But definitely, I think that's a step in change in creating change that is often overlooked, but still very important. Brianna, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. I think one of the most, I mean, like the majority of the most impactful moments, I think for me in my advocacy work has usually been like after events such as these, where we host like honest conversations and talk about our stories and have reflections. So what happened after one such event was that this young girl who's actually not much younger than I am, I'm 23, actually reached out to me over email to have like an honest conversation. And she shared to me about how before she heard about my story and my advocacy, that she had actually never realized that what she experienced in her childhood could be considered violence and could be considered abuse. And because there's so many different realms of childhood violence and childhood abuse, and it can be so normalized in so many different communities, I think a lot of us can think that what we're growing up with is normalized, that it's right, that it's just something that happens to everyone. And so she was sharing how basically our talk made her have a really, really deep reflection about her life, and how she realized that so many of her experiences in childhood actually shaped how she is right now in her teenagehood and young adulthood, how many of her physical struggles, mental health struggles, and also social struggles actually stem from so much of that trauma, and how it's really like manifesting now, and how she worries that it will manifest in the future. And so it was just like this really honest conversation that we were having. And because I studied psychology in college for like this exact reason, I was also sharing with her some resources, some techniques that she could also use when it comes to like self-regulation, cognitive behavioral therapy, that can really empower individuals like her and like other survivors to help themselves in this kind of like working in this kind of lifestyle. And I think what was really powerful as well after this was the fact that she was sharing, and I've heard about this as well with so many other individuals, is that she was saying that, hey, I may not be in a safe space right now, or I may not have the capacity to advocate publicly. I still have so many things that I have to take care of and consider like in my own head and in my own life, but I really want to make a difference. So how can I? And so like it was like this moment like within my advocacy work that really made me reflect and also push my own belief and my own I guess like yeah, my own value that advocacy really should be for everyone. And like with the global youth led movement, something that we really try to do is to make sure that anyone, no matter what their background, no matter what their capacity, or no matter where they are, has the opportunity or even the space to participate. Because I don't think that advocacy should be limited to people who have like the safety or even the privilege or even anything to like speak up, to talk to different people in public, or to talk to policymakers. Like I believe that we should have some mechanism so that even if you, for example, vote or click on something or just share your piece in like one simple way, that can count. And so yeah, that's something that really impacted me, I would say.
Yeah, I love how you kind of like broaden the definition of advocacy. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big social movement. It's really just taking that first step, like that individual reaching out to you. So yeah, that was definitely an amazing story. Let's see. Shomi, do you want to finish this off?
Yeah, wow, like how powerful those stories were. Thank you both for sharing. So to this question, I can think of the time when I did a WASH campaign with my team at Awareness 360 at a sex workers community. So we went to a brothel, and it was during the pandemic. So in 2020, actually. So right when everything was crazy, insane, and we were just, all on lockdown and so on. So it was at a time when we all were going through this massive change. Like as organizations, people were shrinking their operations for obvious reasons, right? We are all in full on isolation, quarantine, etc. But then from the governments, from some of the other bigger NGOs, there were in Bangladesh different initiatives to help out people, for example, the daily wage earners, the rickshaw pullers, and communities as such who are more vulnerable to the quarantine and so on. However, the sex workers community, because we are a Muslim majority population and just culturally, they are considered as one of the most like neglected communities in the country, even though brothels are legal in Bangladesh. So there's a lot of nuance to when it comes to this community, and no one was really doing anything about it. And obviously, the work that they do is it requires like touch, right? And we are going through isolation, so they're impacted. Like definitely their income source is impacted. So they were literally going hungry with no food, no hygiene kits, etc., etc. And then because we have worked with this community for many years. At the time we were in touch with them, so over phone, like we spoke with them, we understood what they were going through, and then we organized a campaign. Like we raised funds to provide them with, so there were 400 girls and women, so we helped them with some ration, like so then that they like absolute basic stuff like rice, etc., and hygiene kits and so on. So when we went there, it was, of course, there's a lot of like security issues. There is because in a space like that, it's very challenging to first get access to even be there, ensure our team security and so on, because there are all kinds of people inside, and then to get their permission. And so there was a huge challenge. And then once we got there, I remember, like, of course, we had to be all PPE protected and all that. And we were distributing the goods. And then one of the ladies came up to me and she said, I remember you, like you came here like whatever years ago, I think it was like 2017 or something. Remember you were teaching us about hand washing? They now show it on the TV all the time. Because of course, when the pandemic started, there's a lot more advertisement around how to wash hands properly and so on. But we did this so many years prior, and they still remember it. And that one moment, it really made me very happy. The fact that they remember us, that trust has been fostered through that engagement many years ago, and they're already aware of things that are not like that are now even more important because of COVID-19. And then that one project, although it was very challenging for my team, but at the end of the day, we were the first NGO to youth-led NGO to help them, and we shed a spotlight. Our project was featured on Global Citizen, UNDP, and so on. So a lot of bigger organizations who have bigger capacity than us, and then because we shed that spotlight on them, then people started thinking about the sex workers communities, not just that one brothel, but others as well. So I think sometimes the perspective shift for me from this story is that sometimes we think that we're too passionate about a cause, an issue is too big, and we feel like, we need to help out all the members of that one particular community. But I think it is practically not possible for one organization or one person to just change the whole thing or address one entire SDG. So I think it's important that, like my previous panelists were saying, that we just get started on a small initiative, but then the ripple effect can be huge where other folks join us on that initiative and leverage that momentum.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think definitely hearing back from the people you've helped is what makes it very rewarding and kind of helps you keep going. I think since all of like our panelists are doing a good job kind of incorporating their personal experiences into it, we'll kind of just stick with like the general questions, so that way like each of your answers is already tailored to your personal experiences. So then kind of building off of that previous question, I guess, what sort of advice would you have to other women and young girls trying to enter leadership in the community impact sector? And is there any advice that would maybe help them combat some barriers or challenges that you faced when originally getting started in your work?
I have one point. I think I'll go. I think like we all are very aware about the current scenario in this entire world about women rights and women bodies autonomy and everything, so I'm not going to go into that. So it's obviously a clear given that being a woman right now in this world, in this current time, is difficult. It's just, I mean, I know it has been difficult and we've progressed a lot, but it seems like in the last 5 years that we are also regressing a lot if you look at the geopolitics of the global world. That said, this sector by itself is difficult. People don't take you seriously. People automatically cancel you out when they know you're not doing some hotshot job, or your working office is the ground under a tree in some village, so automatically you don't fit in. And I have faced this a lot, where I have had to explain, and then working on topics that are taboo and stigmatized, like gender and sexuality, wash, violence. It's difficult introduce these conversations and to hold these conversations in the posh or elite spaces, where mostly you go to do fundraising, etc., where you have to go and talk about your work to make them take you seriously. So I think one big important thing that I have felt was to have a very strong support system. Like, our natal families are often, they don't understand what we are doing. The larger stakeholder society in the sector are either competing with you, or you are engaging with them on some resource distribution exchange thing. So all those are not going to be your support system. You need this one group of, like, maybe women, other people who are very close to you and will just support you. And on the days that you can't go forward anymore, you can call them up and they will say, no girl, you rock, you got this and you can do this. Seriously, like, I have been saved so many times from self-destruction and self-sabotage just because I had someone who was not my parents or not my sibling or not like anyone else who I am accountable to, but just my friend who has no tie to my work but knows me very well, and have been able to lean on them for support, because it's emotionally draining and exhausting and difficult to just go on day in and day out in this world. So yeah, that's one point that I had. Very, very strong support system.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I feel like that's something that's not really mentioned, but it seems so obvious when we really think about it. So yeah, definitely thank you for bringing that up. And yes, I completely agree with you on that point.
I could go next. So my advice for women who are looking into taking on leadership roles would be two things, but I'll combine them. So one is to master the art of asking questions. And second one, engage with non-like-minded people. I think we speak too much about, oh, I love to be in this community because I can connect with like-minded people. But I think we sometimes end up preaching to the converted. So it's important that we engage with those who are not so like-minded, who has a different perspective. And when we ask questions, and more importantly, when we ask the right questions, I think it can be a game changer for both parties, not just to confirm what we know, but to also challenge what we assume. And that way we can grow exponentially. And when we engage with people who think differently, when we intellectually challenge each other, we stretch our empathy, we expand our understanding, and we can become better leaders. It will obviously be difficult. Like, it's not easy to talk to someone that you don't agree with on a foundation level, but I think that's where real change can begin. And that way we can also learn how to talk to someone that we don't essentially agree with, how can we build our narrative so that we meet in the middle, and then we both understand where we are coming from. And I think only then we can expect real change, and at a systemic level, because leadership isn't isn't just about having all the answers, but it's also about being deeply curious, especially in uncomfortable spaces.
Yeah, I feel like in a increasingly polarized world, it's very important that we take the time to understand another perspective, even though things like social media tend to just show us what we already believe in. But I think that's an amazing point, making the effort to go out and interact with other perspectives to kind of make sure that what you're fighting for is very nuanced and well-rounded. So I think that is an amazing point to bring up.
Okay, I guess I can go last. I guess my advice for young girls and women who want to enter like the sector, and especially like as the child protection sector would be to in a way, like, do not let other people take advantage of your heart and also your story and also your values. So I would say definitely as a child and like as a young person, like trying to navigate this fear, so much of us, we're super duper passionate about what we believe in. We're super duper passionate about our stories, and we're super duper passionate about our ideas and our values, etc. But there can be times, and this is just like, I guess, a snippet into the reality of things, where other people can want to take advantage of us, whether for our ideas, our personal stories, and even our time. And I think there comes a time when working in the sector, you really realize how to set boundaries for yourself and exactly what type of leader you want to be and what leadership actually looks like. So does leadership, for example, look like as a young person working in ending violence against children? Does it just mean being consulted, being informed about decisions, or does it actually mean being on equal ground or on pars with decision makers when it comes to child protection policies, when it comes to deciding what points are being prioritized and who gets funding, for example, or who gets resources at this time? I think that is something that is difficult to learn, but it's something that you learn as you go. And I think another advice I would also give is to remember to always stand up for yourself. You know, as advocates, we're so very used to standing up for other people, but as we're in this space, we can like reach a point. At least I have also reached a point where it became difficult to stand up for myself, because like there were so many different actors, so many different stakeholders, so many different people in places that are, for example, fighting for the same thing, but at the same time fighting against each other, or because what my other pants have said that we're not wanted or we're not asked for in this particular space. And so it becomes like really important to know your values, like what you stand up for, and to remember that we are fighting against a system that we want to change, and that even if it may be so hard to fight against a system, that sometimes you may need to go inside the system to fight against it, to never forget our values, what we believe in, and why we're doing this for, well, what we're doing this for, essentially. Yeah.
I think that was a lot of great points of advice, but yes, definitely. And then, Ausmita, do you want to maybe talk about what you put in the chat, just so like I don't think people can see the chat if it's like a recording. So
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to say, I'll just read out the chat once. That, exhaustion and being overworked is glorified and validated in this sector. Also being underpaid, by the way, and being women, we already have the pay gap to deal with. Anyways, but that is not the feminist way. I mean, that is not the feminist way. Feminism is about care, is about taking time, like, giving yourself all the respect and everything that you owe, as Brianna was saying. So as women, as feminists, being aware of the multiple hats we wear within work and even outside work, because obviously we are carrying a lot of baggages, holding on a lot of people who we are responsible for. I think it's very, very important to take rest when your mind and your body tells you so, and take time for oneself, because obviously we are creating new things, and we're not creating a software or something. We're actually going into the community and doing work, so it's so exhausting. So I feel, and I know that whenever we think about taking rest, we feel so guilty. I know I am. I do feel guilty, but then I tell myself, I remind myself, no, that this is the, the society which has internalized you, that, taking rest means that you're doing something wrong, and to be feeling ashamed about it. But it's not that. You should be taking care of yourself first. So yeah, I mean, being burnt out is not going to help anyone, neither myself, nor the work, nor the people that I want to work with. So I think, yeah, that's one more point to it. Thanks.
Yeah, and if I can also add something else after Ashmita, is I think Shomi mentioned this as well earlier, is that easily in this space, and when you're an advocate and you want to make an impact in the social sphere, right? We make this mistake of wanting to do everything. We want to impact everywhere. We want to make a change everywhere, and we want to give so much of ourselves. And this relates to what Asmita was saying about like being burnt out. And I think one advice I would also say from my own experience when it comes to just being an advocate or leader or just being someone in the social sphere is of course you can't do everything, but maybe like one way is to try to find one like niche space or one thing that you can do best and that you can do best and that you want to put all your heart into. So for example, this can look like, okay, what am I good at right now? What gaps are there in this field that I can tackle and that nobody else is thinking about? And another thing is that like, what do I care about and what can I put my heart into? So like when you find, I guess, like that gap, that niche, it becomes like really helpful also for you to find out exactly how you can contribute, how you can make an impact, and how you can serve other people in a way that is also sustainable for yourself. So I guess like, yeah, that's an additional advice I have.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what both Ashmita and Brianna said, I think one of the ways to avoid burnout is to delegate tasks. And just going back to the point of having a support system, having a good team is, I think, really, really crucial. And sometimes when we are leading our own nonprofits, our own organizations or movements or whatever, we sometimes unintentionally may tend to take too much on our plate, thinking that, oh, I am the founder or I am the CEO or whatever. And that ultimately, as a system or as a whole, translates to a wrong perception of success. Success isn't about, or leadership isn't about the title. It's about the impact, right? So I think as leaders, we need to be mindful of that and let others lead. Like that's the legacy I want to leave behind. Like, for example, I don't want people to associate Awareness 360 with Shomi only or Rijvi, my co-founder, only. I want them to know Awareness 360 for what it does, for what the programs we offer, so that if I'm not in the picture tomorrow, Awareness 360 still continues. Only then I think that would be the ultimate success of me as a leader, if I can create space for others to take leadership. Now, sometimes like I have personally, because Awareness 360 is like my baby. So when I, changed countries, started my master's or whatever, like at different points in life where I needed to take a step back, it was very, very difficult because I was like, what if they make mistakes? And I'm a very micromanager kind of person, like very detail oriented. So it might be very difficult, but at the end of the day, I am myself missing out on those growth opportunities for Awareness 360 itself, because I don't know everything, right? So I need to allow fresh faces within my space so that they can change. Yes, of course, things may not go in the right way, but I shouldn't be so adamant in my thinking that my way is the right way. So I think having that adaptive mindset, letting others make mistakes and grow and learn from that process is very, very important for us as leaders to do as well. That way we can delegate others with tasks. We can let ourselves rest for a bit and just be authentic with our team, saying that, guys, I'm having a bad day. Can you please handle this? So I think having that team who are responsible, who are trustworthy, who you can be honest with, is very, very important for all of our well-being in general.
Yeah, I really liked how like that conversation kind of built off each other. And Shomi, you kind of actually inspired like one of my own questions, I guess. So if you guys need to take time to like think of an answer, just let me know. But essentially, a lot of the discussion has been about having that support system, but also being able to delegate tasks. So how would you recommend kind of mobilizing a lot of people who care about the same thing you do to kind of join your community? Because I feel like a lot of the times, especially like being a part of this like younger generation who's very focused on like social media, you see a lot of people like posting about content and raising awareness, which is obviously very important. but how do you find a couple of steps that are useful to kind of bridging the gap between just talking about it, but also kind of joining the movement and taking like that next step in the process? Do you find that it's more helpful to kind of talk to people one-on-one? Are there certain like marketing or promotional strategies that you all use? I guess like what are your different approaches and strategies on that?
I can start. I think it differs from one organization to another, one person to another. There are many ways to do it. So for me or for Awareness 360, word of mouth is like the biggest. Like we rarely spend money on the internet or on social media to promote our programs. Usually it's through word of mouth. Usually it's through speaking engagements like this, where I'm mentioning Awareness 360. So maybe someone will watch and they'll look it up online, right? But I think for us, it's more like we have one program through which people can enter the organization, and we intentionally kept. So that's the Awareness 360 Fellowship Program. It's an annual program open to any young person, 14 to 25 years old, any country, etc. It's virtual, and there is no fees involved, so it's fully funded. And we intentionally kept the barrier to entry pretty low so that it's not it is competitive at the end of the day, given that we have limited spots, we have low capacity, but we intentionally pick those participants who are just starting out in their career, who want some guidance. That's how the program is designed. So a lot of our applicants happen to be like award-winning activists and campaigners, but they're too qualified for this program. It's just not how it's designed. And then once they start the program, they learn those transferable tools and skills they need to start their own social action journey. And as part of the program, we have incorporated a social action project part, where they have to go in their community, speak to whatever community they choose, understand that, do a need analysis, do a project themselves. So they are in charge of that whole thing. So a lot of our graduates end up building their own nonprofit out of that one little project they did as part of our fellowship. And we support them with mentorship, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what we do through this program is that, we give them that agency that they can also build change. And while they do it, we also encourage them to look for partners, to do like a community mapping, that are there other organizations addressing that same issue, addressing that same cause. So that way we are making sure that we are not duplicating efforts. I think that is really, really important in our sector, because we all end up doing the same thing. We all end up applying for the same grant and compete against each other. And then these graduates of our program, they become country ambassadors. They help out new fellows from their region, from their country in the next year's cohort, and the process continues. So that's how they can join our organization, for example. And then these skills, even if they don't continue beyond the fellowship in the other capacities, they can still utilize these skills that they have gained in other aspects of their life. So I think that's one way we engage young people. So if someone wants to start out, it's quite easy for them to join. How long they want to stay engaged depends on them.
I'll go next. For Rung, we do not have any. Also, because we are a very new organization, it's been less than 1 year that we have been registered officially. So we don't have any marketing strategy in place, but we do use our Instagram page very extensively. So one of my co-founders, Ritash, they hold. We use the Instagram page as an online open book documentary space to document diverse, unique, rural, queer, marginalized voices. So here we use personal contacts, or say professional contacts, connections, to bring in people to participate in the Insta lives and give 1 hour of their time to tell their stories. And we go into certain thematic issues, or we talk about specific issues that is predominant in that person's story or life. And we have this process practice we've continued since our inception in 2020, so 4-5 years almost now. And we've been able to reach out to a large number of people who drop in just to hear. We often they engage, they don't engage, but slowly and slowly, from say 50 people, 30 people in each Insta Live, we've been able to come to a point where we've had more than 200 people join in for one Insta Live. So I think that's, again, we build very strongly believe in collective action and networking, not just for the sake of networking, but actually exchange of resources, knowledge, expertise. Because again, one ripple is not going to do much. It needs to be multiple ripples, and obviously not doing the same. I think just as Shomi was saying, not duplicacy of work, but say intersectionally, multiple lenses used to tackle one problem or one issue. I think that works very well. So I think that's how we have been doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so I can talk about the Global Youth Led Movement. So actually, we're also very, very new. We just launched last November, so it's been about 5 months, 5 or 6 months since November, and we're not registered yet because we just started. So it's still something very, very new. But like what my co-panelists were saying about how there's a lot of duplication efforts, something that we've also really wanted to tackle for the movement specifically is how so many efforts are still very, very siloed and are still scattered and therefore like unsustainable, especially youth-led or like youth-focused efforts. A lot of them, as I know also, like during COVID, like died out, and so this movement essentially it's like also my baby. I've dreamt about this movement ever since I was really, really young, but I first proposed the movement in 2023, so it took about like a year and a half for it to actually get going and kick off. But essentially what we want to do is to, number one, unite all existing youth and youth-led efforts on ending violence against children across the world, and so basically build like an international coalition or network, because surprisingly, compared to like other advocacies or other fields, it has not existed yet, which like completely baffles me, because ending violence against children is so big, but nobody has done it yet, and so that's what we want to do. Second is to empower young people to break the cycles of violence, because as we know, it's very intergenerational, and if as a young person, for example, if you experience violence from your parent, as when you become a parent yourself in the future, it can be hard if you hadn't experienced, for example, like positive parenting, to understand and actually know how to positively parent your child in return. So it's also about like helping your young people understand what this means and how to do it. And it can be, for example, through talks like this. And another thing we want to do is to basically ensure that children and young people's voices are centered in policy decision making, so that we're not just like tokenized or advised or consulted, but actually equal decision makers. And so that's essentially what we want to do, and we want to become that bridge. We want to like form like a big network and become that bridge. And we've been working very hard for like the past, I would say, year on that. And I guess the advice for like movement building, since we're still very much in the starting point, is really asking our partners and asking all the existing organizations, what do they need? So okay, so for example, we approach one organization like here in the Philippines. Okay, so hi, what are you doing? What are you currently doing right now? What are you focused on? What exactly do you need, and how can we help you? I feel like asking that question of how can we help you, like ask the movement, and for them to join is really, really helpful, because one, it makes sure that it ensures that we are able to distribute and also share resources, also share knowledge, but at the same time that we are able to foster collaboration, so that brings back in the duplicitous effort. So whenever we, like, for example, meet organizations who are doing similar things, we try our best to like put everyone in one net together and say, hey, you can collaborate, we can collaborate, and like here's what we can do together, for example, as a global movement. And I guess like my message also to anyone who'd be interested, since we're very new still and we don't have a public media presence yet, please feel free to reach out and also see how you can get involved. So yeah, very happy to.
Yes, thank you for that. I think what's amazing about the three of you panelists is that you all have kind of different approaches to what you do. Like Asmita, you have kind of the creativity based kind of like approach to it. Like Brianna, you do like research as well as like other community actions, and I guess Shomi, you worked like a lot on the policy side as well. So I think it's amazing that even though you three have like very different approaches, it's at the end of the day, you're all trying to like make a change in your community. And I think it's amazing that women can kind of go into this field and kind of experiment with what exactly they're good at and kind of how they actually want to make that difference and kind of cater it towards themselves so that they can feel very fulfilled and rewarded as well. So thank you all for answering all these questions very eloquently. I think a lot of the answers were amazing, very detailed, and will definitely inspire a lot of the people watching this session. And then you guys already kind of covered it, but we will have our like opportunity auction next week. So there are 4 different sessions. We're gonna send out like another email early next week with the timings for that. So essentially you just have to join each session and then you can kind of like plug your organization, promote any like internships or opportunities. Like Shomi, you mentioned that Awareness 360 has a fellowship. So even if you can't send someone, you can always just like let us know of an opportunity that your organization may have, and then we can kind of just promote it for you guys. So that's essentially just like another way to promote that. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording right now.